And these are statistics that you probably already know, but these are very challenging statistics that we're all going through and hopefully we'll overcome. But tonight is going to be a special night because you're going to hear some over 20, 30 years of construction accounting experience that's going to help you to really put your company in the best shape. So only 35% of minority-owned businesses that apply for financing to receive the full amount they request, compared to 46 of non-minority-owned businesses. Again, 35% compared to 46 non-minority firms. Black and Hispanic business owners are more than twice as likely to be denied for loans as their white counterparts, even when controlling for credit worthiness. Another important statistic is in the construction sector, minority-owned businesses make up roughly 90% of all firms, 90%, but they receive less than 5% of total industry revenues. And so that speaks to the disparity that exists, right, folks? We really need to figure out a way to change the paradigm. But for programs like this, that gives you the resources, the access to networks and opportunities, the numbers would stay the same. So this is an opportunity for you to take advantage of that. Revenues of underrepresented firms having contracts for less than $1 billion. So that means out of the 19%, right, the ceiling is that many of these firms don't even grow beyond the 1 million. So if you're sitting here listening to this and you're over 1 million, you have to say thank you because the opportunities that have been afforded to you have given you this ability to scale. All right. So with that, I'm going to introduce my good friend, Fred Davis. So Fred Davis is the partner at the tax services at Aprio. Is there anybody heard of Aprio? So Aprio is one of the top 25 accounting firms. So they do his work. He works with a variety of clients from high net worth individuals to private equity firms, financial service entities, and not-for-profits. Fred brings a wealth of experience and exceptional track record in working with a variety of entities, particularly not-for-profits and high net worth individuals. You're building a business right now to exceed the personal net worth threshold in the state. How many people know what the personal net worth threshold is with the state of New York certification program? The personal net worth threshold for the state of New York is $15 million. So some of you may say, well, we've got a little bit more runway to go. But before you know it, when you're growing your business, that $15 million in personal net worth could very quickly achieve. So a little about his education. Fred earned a BBA in accounting from Hofstra and MS in taxation from NYU, and JD from Rutgers Law. He's a CPA and serves on the ACIP Tax Management Committee and is a member of Corporate Advisory Board for the National Association of Black Accountants. His resume is too long to go into it, but without further ado, let's introduce Fred Davis.
Thank God. Appreciate you. Good evening, everyone. And usually in accounting, sometimes people start falling asleep, so I'm calling you and us. So, and please, and I'm sure everyone that you talk to always asks you to participate, because this goes much easier and everyone learn from each other, not just from me. So, and I think it was kind of said a little bit, right? 10 most common causes of contractor failure. And, you know, from a certified public accounting perspective, and this is where I'm coming from, right? We see this all the time and we try to work with our clients. In fact, I'll tell a quick story that has to stay within this room. You guys promise?
Yes, sure.
I don't see people. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. You're going to stay in this room. But I see y'all looking at you. Ain't put your hand up. I can't do it if I ain't put it. Hands up. Hands up. All hands up. I ain't doing it, so I ain't saying this. I ain't saying this. Hands up. There you go. Your teammate got to put your hand up. I see two right there. They put their hand up right there. All right.
Come on, guys. Let's put the hands up.
Hands up. All right. So first of all, the firm is called Aprio. So Aprio is based in, headquartered in Atlanta. But we actually have office here in the Empire State Building. And I just joined them about a month ago. Before that, I spent 20 years at Mitchell & Titus, which is the largest minority-controlled CPA firm in the country. And before that, I was a partner, actually, at Arthur Anderson, which was back then a big 5 firm that fell. And I went to Mitchell & Titus, and now I'm a partner at Aprio. But the story is this. So Burt Mitchell, who founded Mitchell & Titus back in 1974, so Bill Cosby went to him to say, listen, and they're staying in this room because y'all all put your hands up. Bill Cosby went to Burt Mitchell and said, listen, Burt, I need you to help Michael Jackson. Roseanne, I need you to help him with his accounting and finance work. Like, okay. So Michael Jackson became a client of Mitchell & Titus. So as you all pretty much know, right, because I don't listen to too many people, young lawyers, interested ones, two, a couple younger than me, but many of you are, right? He didn't do as well in his business, right? And he was losing money. And Burt was very prideful because the first thing he said was, if something happened and he lost, all his money and went broke, first thing they would have said was, who's the CPA? Who's the accountant? Not who's his finance person, right? Who's his finance advisor? But who is the accountant? So Burt Mitchell fired Michael Jackson as a client. And as you know, when he died, his estate was more valued when he died, right? Because of all the sales of, of his songs and what have you, than when he was alive. So he was more valuable dead than alive when he died, right? Or right before he died versus, after he died. And so that's, us CPAs, we really get into those numbers. And when we see a client that's not listening to our advice, they will be gone. So one, we talk to them about growing too fast, right? First thing people do is like, wow, we get these big jobs and we got to take it. This is going to be great because, we get this job, that job, that job. Meanwhile, they have no capacity to get the work done. Zero. One of the slides says cash is king, right? You could run out of cash so quickly and you got a bottle, right? Just to pay employees. That after a while gets, old and helps you run into debt and then out of business. So you got to be careful of growing too fast because you could be out of business. That's what that really means, right? You got to really measure it out and budget it out. Obtaining work in a new geographic region, it's kind of the same thing as growing too fast, right? When I was at Mitchell & Titus, one of the things we said that we wanted to grow, but not by just saying, hey, let's go to Chicago and start doing business. Well, we had no relationships. If we're going to go to Chicago, we're going to buy a business in Chicago, right? That has relationships and that we can get along with the folks that operate the business, right? But first thing we do is review their books of records, do some due diligence, not just because they're nice people that we go in and here they got a great reputation that we go in and go buy them. We actually say, okay, let's sit down and go over your books and records and make sure that when you're saying that you have these clients, that they are your clients and those fees are the fees coming in and you're collecting regularly too. That's the other thing, right? They can have a $2 million business and, barely collecting on that $2 million business. It's just because of the accrual basis of accounting, right? That it shows that on the books, but they haven't collected yet. So we do our due diligence, right? And that's what you all do. And you decide to, partner with someone, you may want to do your due diligence, right? Even if it's, on a big job, you're saying, hey, let's combine our resources. If you don't look at their financial situation and sit down with them, you have no idea if they can actually meet the demands of the dollar. No idea. So again, you got to be careful. So even if it's not that a big combination with a partner, but with each other, right? You still want to know and make sure that they have the capacity to do the work because that can trip you up. Dramatic increase in single job size. Again, you got a budget. Right? It's so important that the budget because you may sometimes have to walk away from significant jobs because you don't have the capacity today. And you don't want to have that reputation right? That, wow, this person kicks on good jobs and can't get it done. And they're not meeting, the thresholds, right? The requirements, the contractual requirements that you've actually signed. And let me just say this, and I sometimes interrupt myself and apologize, but contracts, read in the fine lines, just don't sign. Don't be so happy to be signing anybody's contract. Talk to your attorney. And I know, we attorneys cost money, but that's the reason why we cost money, right? Is to really help you and look through your contract and make sure that you don't trip over yourself. Like there may be a insurance requirement that there's no way you can afford. So you may have to take it out, right? Or negotiate with them, reduce the coverage. Like a lot of, especially multinationals now ask you for this cyber coverage. Sometimes they'll ask you like $10 million, $20 million in cyber coverage. Yeah. That's astronomical cost. And you sign on a dollar line without even saying, listen, I'm a small mom and pop shop. Now I can do the work, but hey, listen, I'm not tripping up wires and this and that. I'm not, causing your system to go, your whole technology system to go down. That's not what I'm doing. Those big companies should have that coverage, but not me, my mom and pop shop. No, there's no way. So again, by even the contract could cost you more money. All right. So you have to go through that contract, get your attorney to go through that contract and negotiate. And when they say, and it's true, XYZ company will just sign it. So why are you going back and forth with appeal? Because you could say, I'm always making sure that I can deliver, but I have the capacity to deliver. And if you're now increasing my cost, is the question?
Yes, the question.
Oh yeah, just raise your hand.
Yes, I'll answer.
Don't be shy.
Something that happened with the company that I work for, we were covering Bedwick Expressway. Mm-hmm. That company wanted our coverage and then also requested for our contractors to give their coverage as well.
Yep.
Because that's why the pool, should everything happen, then they shared the expense with us going down instead of taking the bulk of it themselves.
So what they're doing is, and this is the insurance, right? You're saying on the insurance?
On the insurance.
On the insurance. Right. They're making sure they don't know y'all. So they're saying, hey, if this company fails, I can go after the other one. I can go after the subcontractor. So the subcontractor should be, insuring you as well, right? You should be asking for their insurance policy and ask for their certificate of insurance that says that if something happens that they mess up, that, you're covered under their insurance policy. So you should be asking for the same thing, to be honest with you, to cover yourself.
The catch-22 with that is that we're site safety managers. So we're not actually physically doing the work. We're babysitting everybody.
And that's why you should ask them to cover you. The subcontractor should be covering you.
All right.
And I know this, I saw some hand. We're going to get there.
The other question was to what you were talking about before in the payment. Is that the reason why some companies insist on paying net 30, 60, or 90 is to build the finance?
Don't start me up. No, great question. I mean, again, she got part of what I was going to talk about later on, but that's a huge one, right? Listen, you're in the business to make money, right? And part of making money is, once if you have an ounce of inventory or you're paying employees, whatever, you're trying to say, I'm trying to bill my client so I can pay my employees, so I can pay back, the supplier that gave me the widgets, whatever that I purchased for them so I can do the job, right? So you got to look at the scale. You got to look at from my costs going out of my business to when the income comes in. And it's called the cash gap. You want to close that cash gap. So what big multinationals have done is they say, you know what? Yeah, we got, Microsoft, $1 billion in cash sitting on my bank. We want it to grow. And we don't care if it's a small, $1 million, provider of, that $1 million sales provider. We're going to tell them net 60, net 90. I mean, that was like net 90 now. Like they won't pay you until 90 days after the invoice comes in. And what's crazy about it is that's when it gets into the system. So you may send it to Joe and say, hey, Joe, here's the invoice. If they don't have a process to, for you to submit electronically that invoice, you're waiting on that person to submit it as well to
Another 30 to 60 days.
Right, that could be the third. And in second, you haven't followed up with them, right? That's why it's so important. And for you guys, you gotta, if you ain't you, because you doing the business, you better have someone that's calling and say, did the invoice get in?
Yeah.
Did it start the cycle? Did they process whatever? Because that net 30, net 69, that's gonna kill you. What they're telling you to do, go borrow, pay your employees,
right.
and then you can pay that off later on. And you didn't even include in your pricing
Right.
the expense of getting financing. You didn't even include it in there. Didn't include it in there. So I know that there's two back here. Then we can go over here. You guys still have a question? No.
So I just want to jump in because this is the juicy part of the conversation for many of the subcontractors here. We all know dealing with prime contractors or governmental entities that there's this delay, right? And so the point is, how do you assess your cash preserve so that you can wait for 60, 90, and it's impossible to do it, but there has to be a calculus built in, is what he's saying, so that you don't go underwater. Because I think as I hear it, access to capital and getting the affordable capital is another thing too, right? So we need to take a look at that, those questions.
Even though it says on their net 30, they blatantly say it says net 30, but you don't get paid until we get paid.
Right. And then that's what's hard to deal with the city and the state and what have you. Even though, like, I know the MTA, right? They said that, was 700 days on paying 7 days.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even pay before.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I do sessions like this for them all the time, and they pay me. They ask me for my invoice before I even show up.
Right.
So so their intention is to do that, which is great. But, a lot of times you deal with cities, something like Philadelphia, you ain't feeling me, right? With some other cities. All right, I'm going to get to him, and then you, there was a point you made, I was going to dump on it, but, the thing is, it's the cash gap.
Yeah, the cash gap. Yeah.
You got to close that cash gap when you're giving out money versus when you collect it. And what you really want to do is get someone, if it's you or someone else, and start making those calls and tracking it. Like how long it's going. They goes net 30 and now you're on day 60. That's crazy. Oh, so my other point I was going to make, and then we'll go right to you, was that when they come and they won't negotiate, they be like, hey, I'll look at someone else. Sorry, we're not, lawyers are saying they're not going to look at it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, well, I had to increase my price then. Cause I did not take into account that you're going to take 90 days to pay me. And that means what you're telling me to do is go to a bank and get a loan to pay my employees. I don't think that's fair when I'm a small contractor. You're going to kind of cry.
And to that point, guess what? That eats into your bump, right?
Of course, because you're interested in that.
Yeah.
And hey, you're struggling to pay people. So it eat into you, because you may have to say, I got to sacrifice and not get paid on this day and make sure my employees are paid so I don't lose them. And I can't pay myself until a week or two later because of this cash flow issue. That's one of the poor cash flow. Number 10 probably should be number 1 over here. That's the biggest issue that you have. I'm sorry.
Allow the specific of the net 30, 90. Right now I have a job, night shift job, Totfield, Staten Island. Mm-hmm. They have played since January with 20 per week. Payroll was over $20,000. Mm-hmm. Still today they haven't paid because of the paperwork.
Right.
Guys, can I address the class?
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's what we have. This is about peer-to-peer dialogue, guys. It's not just a lecturing format. We really want to encourage peer-to-peer dialogue.
It's a deal. I'm sorry, but it's a deal. We all have our professions. We do electrician, carpentry, construction, and why not? Problem is, this is paperwork. We haven't get paid since January. We finished the job. It's completed. we pay the employees, the union.
Right.
If you don't pay the employees that are union, the union is up your neck.
Right.
If there's a PLA job and they're not union, the Department of Labor is up your neck. So we have to put out the money. We have to pay employees, get a job, and do everything. Now they find a signature that's not complete. They send the paperwork back. 30 days back, 4. It's been 4 months. I had to involve lawyers, accountants. I spent almost $15,000 so far to collect $10,000 for that job.
It makes sense. I mean,
See, what are the solutions to that? Because I work on the ASAN and Oaksy. There are certain people who are familiar with the agency paperwork. You got to find those people.
Right.
It's very important because therefore you set up, they throw it off for anything. It's a key. You got to find those people because they work. Some retire from the different companies, and we got to find those.
But they don't say it out when they ask the one you to be the Spanish.
no.
The one you need, so then they can.
You gotta ask, but now going forward, you have to ask those questions. What's the big questions? Right. But
This is the solution. You got to find these people that are skilled with this because you got people who are skilled. And these paperwork are like, I know. It's like this.
Right. And that's definitely the case. But at the beginning of any job, we should be asking, what's the process of getting paid? Like you said, I mean, you got the job, you got to ask and find out. And when they go through it, then you go find those people. If it's easy, then it's easy. Yes.
Yeah, so understanding has to develop, and then people always mention that needs to build making relationships, right? And I guess this is for anyone here who has knowledge on this subject. But we bank for the fintech right now, right? We keep a lot of our cash from the fintech, and we have a relationship with the big banks as well, but we don't have that much cash with them. So how do you and what was the difference between having a strong banking relationship and having not so strong banking relationship? What does that get? Does that get you better rates? Does that get you faster capital? I'm actually interested in learning with anyone who has a strong banking relationship. What have they done for you? Because I've heard from some people that their banking relationship really saved their business or some doughy. So interested in where you.
And it's a great question as well, right? The banking relationship not only can save your business, but it can actually help you build capacity, right? If you know that, hey, if I had this certain amount of dollars, I can now go out and hire more employees, or I can go out now and purchase another business that complements mine, that has a relationship somewhere, that really helps me to take it to the next level. So, a lot of times people go and ask for money when they need it, versus a lot of times they'll tell you, even if you don't need it, go to the bank and say, hey, I'm going to do a loan with you, but I want to just draw down every once in a while. And even if you don't need the money, you still draw it down because that helps your credit anyway. Draw it down and paying it back. Right. So it's important. So most companies that are very successful have great banking relations. I mean, one, the bank wants them anyway, right? Why? Because the bank wants, their money to invest. So if for just deposit relationship. So just from that standpoint, what you have to do is from that deposit relationship, use it to really expand your business. So I'm glad you mentioned that because it is even if you don't need to get a loan from a bank, it's so important for you to have a great banking relationship.
How do you develop a good relationship with a bank?
Well, one, if you don't need the money, then of course it's deposits, right? You're putting a deposit in the bank and you're using that, running through your payments or what have you through it. They will love it. They see all this cash coming through. They're fighting for you, right? For that. That's where you start off. But then, on the other side, you say, you know what? Let me go. Let's say, let me get some type of capacity, right? $10,000, $100,000, whatever, and I'll develop this relationship at a low interest rate, and every once in a while I'll pull down. Again, just to show my credit that I'm paying it back, each month. Because if I do need it, because I'm going to make a big acquisition down the road, Now they see that, hey, I paid my stuff back and I paid a ton, right? And then, you know, of course, that bank or another bank will love to have you as a client and when you really need the money. So what I'm saying is you try to borrow even when you don't need the money. It's so important. Yes.
I just wanted to say something. My definition on a banking relationship is not a teller account. It's just
data.
Oh yeah, 100%.
that's important. And I had to get a construction loan. And I literally went onto the website and looked at commercial loan officers. I then went onto LinkedIn and saw who knew those people who were those senior loan officers, and then got a meeting. Wow. And I got a loan. They still had it. Olivia Bloom showed up that day, but I got the loan. And so a relationship with, and to this day, I have the head of commercial lending. I had his cell phone. I can call him and he would pick up my call. That to me is the definition of a solid banking relationship, not a teller at the counter.
Yes.
And what's learned the hard way is that when it comes to a loan, there tends to be about 5 people who make that decision. They actually vote. And if you secure the votes of the majority of the people at that table, you get your loan. It needs to be people who are going out to golf for you, who are convincing the person who's at that table. And that's my definition of a banking relationship.
So you just reminded me of one.
Jamaica.
You just reminded me of, so I have a client that is, 20 to $25 million business, right? And he was purchasing he was actually getting another customer that he had to serve. So he had to actually bring in more employees to cover that customer. And so he realized based on the run rate of the salaries that he's going to have to get additional financing. So he went out to this organization to do it. Now, unbeknownst to me, he was doing it, but he was copying me on emails back and forth with the loan officer because they were asking for financial information that I would provide. When I saw the company, I'm like, bro, hold it. I know the CEO. So let me, he goes, oh, okay, great. I said, well, I'm going to set up a call between you and the CEO. We'll jump on and we'll talk about what your needs are. So he's like, oh, let me get my CFO on. I said, no, it's just between the CEOs. That's it. And me. We'll get on there. He got his financing. So they were rejecting him actually, but that's what they keep doing. They were rejecting him. I was like, I know this guy extremely well. We got on and boom, within that week. And it's just like you said, they had these roundtable meetings, the CEOs at, and everyone presents. This time when the CEO knew what the parameters was, knew what he was asking for, and said, approve, move forward. So that, you're absolutely right. It's not to tell. And the last thing then I'll go to you was PPP. If anyone applied for PPP at the beginning, a lot of people were rejected. A lot of small businesses were rejected because they didn't have the banking relationships, right? They had a deposit relationship and that was it. So when they went out, the banks had no idea what the federal government was going to require. No clue. So the banks were being very stingy and they were like, we're doing the PPP to our best customers. And so now all of a sudden these people had to find other places to go to. Now, 100 black men. I remember 100 black men. We applied for PPP from our bank, and I got to get rid of that bank now. See, right? I got rejected. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Then we went to the German. I talked about that CEO. We went to him.
It's all relationships.
Boom, got our PPP. Two rounds of PPP because we had that relationship. I go back here in the country.
Sure. Well, I want to share with the class, like say, when you're talking about banking relationship, I've been in banking before I started the company for 15 years. My last position was at Chase as a senior business relationship manager. For me, in my perspective of lending for the business, the banker is important, right? The relationship, but I believe that the more important is your CPA. The first thing the banker is gonna ask you is gonna be your financials.
Yeah.
Your financial, if your financial is not up there, no matter who that banker is, he won't be able to help you.
Right.
So you have to understand, the financial of your business. Like very simple example, if your M1 is not positive, no bank's gonna lend to you. Mm-hmm. So, he probably know what's the M1. You know, that's your net revenue. So you have to show profit. You have to pay. You really have to pay the government in order for you to let. Because the business is not making money and you're not paying taxes, it means that your business is not profitable and no bank's going to lend to you.
Right.
So you have to, you know, like it takes time, you know, and bank usually likes to see, you know, at least 3 years of tax return, right? They want to see it grow. They want to see positive.
So they file timely. That's the other thing.
It's very,
I would say one thing with this group here, most of you must have a decent CPA because you're actually showing profit and showing revenues. There are CPAs, they're so good where they just don't show you, they don't show that you're making any money. And that's counterproductive when you go to a bank, right? So they want to see revenue. So one of the reasons why.
Or a strong balance sheet. Like, even if you have a loss, they may lend to you. But if you have like oodles of cash on your balance sheet, they know they can go after you. They'll just make sure that you don't distribute that to yourself at a certain point. So they'll have parameters in the loan agreement to make sure that you're not just taking the money out. But, you know, what's true that they're looking for profitability. They're looking to make this, even if you have, say you have big losses and you're coming down and you're going towards having income, that may be okay. I'm going to go here and someone else.
So we're gonna let's let him get through the presentation, guys. Because this is great. Let's get him get.
I'm going to get her question. Here we go.
However, to ask you, it's a great way to build a relationship, but hi, my name is Mary from Clinton. It's a great thing to build the relationship, and I did with Chase, Citibank, and everybody. They gave me the highest rate because I'm immigrant and just became a citizen. So it is good, but I mostly agree with Abner about reasonable loans from government. I got a bulk loan. And if not these programs as PGA and Kalanke CU Grow program, I wouldn't know them. Yeah. But thank you, government, for loans that they give us, SBA loan and bulk. They really give us really good, fair
rates.
Yeah. So like to that point, there are two organizations. So I wanted to get Empire State Development Capital Access Program to be here tonight because they've developed some very innovative financing solutions that I think you guys are going to be able to benefit. But to your point, Mary, non-traditional CDFIs like Bach Capital, True Fund,
Yes, true.
they could be your resource when you come into a cash crunch or you need to finance a new job. So we will share that information with you because oftentimes the banks, they look at you in a different way. So construction oftentimes is not as sexy as fintech or something. So one of the points that I want to stress here is like, how do we make this group as attractive as possible for the best lending that they can do to grow and scale?
Correct. So, and I know there was, I don't know if you had one other question after that. I'll go through this quick. Do you have one more question or comment?
You didn't talk about how would you need covenant.
I wasn't really going to talk about it unless it came up in the conversation, but go ahead.
This is what you did, but the loan you have to reach ongoing covenants. You need to they can pull the loan. So I was just wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it quick. I mean, you've really said it. That there's certain covenants that you have to meet, right? In terms of one, your accounts receivable turning over a certain amount of income each quarter that is showing. You can't drop below a certain amount. I mentioned about not taking money out of the business as well. That they're, especially a small business owner, they're very particular of you taking money out of the business. Because if you do, then they can't, you're basically that's why a lot of times you have to guarantee the loan itself. Because if they don't have you guarantee the loan and somehow you get that money out as a business, they can't come after you. They can only go after the business unless you committed some type of fraud or what have you.
I have a very quick question. So the gap that I'm not able to deal with is the one where my client will just absolutely not pay, no matter what.
And there's a why aren't they paying?
I'm sorry?
Why aren't they paying?
Because the work gets done before they get paid. If the job is such that they have to pay something before that, or if I have to sign off something in the end, then they will pay. but some of the work has.
So that goes to if you know that if you know if someone's not paying, that no, I want to do the job, right? But if you don't know, I still would have a sliding scale on how they pay, right? Or I would make sure. What I would do in all my agreements, and if I do in all my agreements, I try to make sure that they're paying me something up front.
Retainer. You should get a retainer. You should get a retainer up front.
And for construction, you get certain clients that will give you a cash deposit. There are projects that I've been on that will give you a cash deposit, call it mobilization or what have you.
Then you got to feed track.
And then you could use that up front. If you know that this is a client that potentially has a history of not paying, you could try to negotiate those things. The other thing that I would say to your point, it's a very slippery slope when a client is not paying you and you say, well, I'm going to pause the work, right? Because the work, if you're building a project and it has to meet certain schedule or time frame, they may say, look, you know what? This is not a good partner. I mean, and of course it's a business decision that you have to make, but just understand the risks.
Right.
If you do say pause and I'm not going to do the work, then it might create a different